All right, y'all. So, this is going to be one of the most important lessons that we've done all year. It's the end of the year. It's time for everybody to take a moment to reflect, to pause, and to figure out exactly what is working so that you can dial in on that and double down for improving your content, creating better content, content that resonates with your people. And if you've been struggling, feeling like, nothing is working, I feel like I'm just throwing a bunch of spaghetti at the wall, I want you to listen carefully and make sure that you get out some notes, something to take notes with, because this is going to help you really identify and get clear on what to do next. A lot of times when we're just throwing spaghetti at the walls, it's because we're not looking in the right places for the information the data is giving us. So, this is what we're going to talk about. Healers, I want you to imagine for a moment that every single piece of content that you post becomes a guide for you. It tells you exactly what's working, what's not, and what to do next, if you know how to listen. Now, today, we're going to talk about the part of content creation that most of you skip, and that is to reflect and perfect. This is where your content system stops being super random and starts becoming predictable. It's the perfect lesson for the end of the year because, once again, if you've been posting and praying and thinking nothing is working, this is going to be the lesson to help you get clear on what is working and how to double down so that you can start to see the results in a more upfront way, right? Where you're not having to dig for it. The intention for today is super simple. By the end of our time together, you are going to have a 20-minute monthly ritual to review your content, to pull the right lessons, and to take small, powerful action and tweaks that lead to more engagement and more conversations and sales. This is not going to be a lesson on how to beat yourself up and focus on what's going wrong or obsessing over vanity metrics, spiraling in comparison. This is about data, about discernment, and about devotion to your craft. So let's do a quick recap because we've covered a lot the last few months, and I want to really lay out what this has looked like for you today. So the last few lessons, we've talked about planning. So deciding the message and the offer that you're amplifying so that you can create content from a very grounded place. I call that your lighthouse because that is what is going to be the anchor to all of the content that you create in the ecosystem that I teach you. The second part of the series is where we talked about how to shoot your content, how to actually film things that are aesthetically pleasing and that look good, and all the tips behind that. And then the third part of this series is where we talked about sharing and scheduling. So getting your content out of the drafts and out into the world for everybody to see it. And then last month, we talked about repurposing. So stretching one piece of content into an entire month full of content assets so that you can be seen by doing less and seen by more people. Now, this is where we reflect and perfect. So this is the ritual that is going to help you stop guessing and start refining. This is the one thing that I said earlier. Most people skip this part. This is the most important piece so that you can understand what works for you, your people, and your business. Now, most healers, once again, they either don't look at their content data at all, right? And they just hope that they'll just keep posting and something will stick and eventually hit, or they may peak every now and then, feel a little discouraged, and then jump to conclusions like the algorithm hates me, nobody cares what I have to say, I guess I'm just not good at this whole content thing. And when we do that, we're making content mean something about our worth instead of treating it like neutral information, right? Like there is so much information in content and in our data. And this is what I want to focus on with you guys today is that the reframe of data being really a form of divine feedback and relating to your content like an oracle deck, if you will. The numbers, the responses are just feedback. It's not a final verdict. It's an arrow saying more of this, less of this, and then you can move forward. Views, likes, saves, shares, follows, DM sales, all of that is your audience and your community and platform saying more of this, or I didn't quite get this, or this isn't landing for me yet. And as I've mentioned to you all before, some of you are posting things that the collective is not going to quite catch on to just yet. It's going to take a few weeks, a few months, some of you a few years for the collective to start to catch up to what it is that you are saying. Now, I want you to go ahead and write this down. My content is always talking to me. My job is to listen without ego and adjust with love. And this is where this ritual of reflect and perfect, this is where we do this. So I'm going to give you a 20-minute ritual that you can do every single month. You can literally put content reflection on your calendar so that it's something that you begin to practice on a regular basis. Now, the very first step of this is your data download. So once a month, you are going to look back at the content that you posted in the last 30 days. Okay. And then you're going to capture this into 5 main categories. And you're going to do this. You can do this in a notebook, a Google Doc, Notion, whatever keeps you consistent and is easy for you. All right. So the very first content is going to be your reach. Your reach is how many people actually saw this content. All right. And you're going to ask yourself, which pieces of content got the most views and which formats reached the most people? When I say formats, we're looking for, was it the reels? Was it your carousels? Was it stories? Was it threads? Which format was seen the most? All right. The second category is going to be follows. This is pretty straightforward, but you want to pay attention to which content is bringing more people to your digital sanctuary. How many people are stepping into your storefront online and saying, I want to stick around. I'm interested in more of this. That is a great signal that people are starting to really begin to understand the work that it is that you do, and they want more information. If you follow the methodology that I teach and my framework, my CCC framework, that's the signal and that's the trigger for you to start to have connection with people so that you can deeply understand what it is that your people need from you as a healer and as a leader. Now, the third category is going to be engagement. So engagement is who actually interacted, right? What got saves, shares, and comments. Those are the 3 biggest forms of engagement. All right. Which posts actually converted into conversations in the DMs, right? How many pieces of content and which posts were the posts that people said, you know what? I want to start a conversation with this. I'm curious about this. I want more information about this. That's data we need to know. And then which stories got replies or poll votes. So as you were reviewing your stories as well, which of those got people talking? All right. Now, the fourth category is going to be conversion. Obviously, as a business, we want to know which information and which content converted into sales. So did it move anyone closer to a sale? Did anyone inquire? Did they apply? Or did they buy because of this content? And which posts and stories were the bridge to somebody, joining freebie, DMing you, asking you directly about your offer? We want to really reflect on what exactly was working. All right. And the fifth and final category is going to be your energy. This is the one that most people skip. So you want to understand which pieces of content felt easy, felt fun, felt aligned to create, and then which ones drained you or felt super like pushed and forced. We don't want to do a bunch of that. So we want to take inventory of what also didn't work for you. And then where did you feel most like yourself? Where did you tap into flow state? Where did you begin to open up as a channel and have messages pouring through you? Where was that? And then we tie everything together. So the magic happens when you look at all 5 of these categories, right? And you say, okay, this reel had a high reach, it had good engagement, it felt fun to create. There's gold here, right? And then on the other hand, right, this post took forever to create. It got low reach, it got low engagement. Maybe we don't want to prioritize that format right now. Okay. Now, after you've reflected and you've taken a moment to sit down and really gather the information, it's time to perfect. It's time to refine, not chasing perfection, if you will, but really making very intentional tweaks. All right. So for every piece of content and pattern that you notice, you're going to run it through these 3 lenses. We're either going to do more, we're going to do less, or we're going to do it differently. So if we're going to do more of this, anything that reaches more of the right people, that brings in saves, shares, follows, replies, if it sparks DMs and sales, and it feels good in your body to create, that's going to go in the do more bucket. All right. So ask, what can I say again in a slightly different way? Can I turn this into a series? Can I repurpose this into a story or a carousel or an email or a live? How can I expand this even further? All right. Then your second bucket is the do less bucket. So anything that consistently flops and or feels heavy or misaligned, that is obviously going to go in the do less bucket. This doesn't mean that you never ever do this type of content again, but it just means that it's not your priority and you're going to do less of it while you strengthen what is working. Okay. And then the third bucket is your do different bucket. So this is where we play, right? Anything that has a strong message, but isn't necessarily popping off yet, or if it feels aligned, but just isn't getting traction, this goes in your do different bucket. So many of my students say, Jessa, I know that this specific thing is my message, but whenever I talk about it, it's just not landing, but they're only posting about it in one specific way, like a reel. And I'm like, well, have you tried a carousel? Have you tried a series? Have you tried an email? Have you tried recording it as an audio, a B-roll? There's so many different ways that we can create and we can play. And I want you to begin to experiment with that. So ask, can I change the hook? Can I change the format, right? Like turning a talking head reel into a B-roll reel with captions and, using a long caption and turning that into a carousel, etc. Or could you maybe adjust the call to action and invite more engagement in the DMs? This one is huge because so many of you guys are just posting and not making a clear call to action for people to engage. If you're following this series, again, you want to be using a keyword call to action that gets people to comment and raise their hand for you to DM them. Okay? Because it creates engagement on your post. You reply to it, double engagement on your post, and then you're replying to them in the DMs. That's another point of engagement, if you will, and connection so that you can begin to have conversations with your people. And then also reflecting on if you can improve the visuals or make the first 3 seconds of it somehow more interesting, visually, with a sound, with something. Okay. Or even the lighting. I see a lot of y'all come in and share content to be reviewed and say, oh, Jessa, and the content itself is great, but it's super dark or it's hard to see or hard to hear. So here's a perfect example of my own I'm going to share with you. Using the ecosystem that I've taught you this year has given me an abundance of information and data about my people, my community, my business, what works for me. And going into this new year, my content is going to be focused on 2 main things. Number 1 is threads, and number 2 is still image feed posts, like the throwbacks you've seen where it's literally just a picture and a long caption. This is what works best for me, for my business, for my people. It gets the highest engagement and follows, and feels amazing for me to create. I put all of my top performing thread posts in a doc. And if you want that, you can have the full document. Just raise your hand and I'll send it your way. I also broke down exactly why those threads perform so well and brought in hundreds of follows, leads, engagement, everything that any business owner wants. Now, reels don't do as well for me. So, as much as people are saying, post the reels, post the reels, post the videos, post the TikToks, videos are popping off for me. Now, I am going to keep posting them occasionally on a somewhat regular basis as a signal that the business is still open across all the video platforms, but it's not going to be my main focus. And I want to normalize this level of experimentation for you all, because I want you to see that this reflect and perfect ideology is about experimenting and exploring and understanding your business and your community. Because your content isn't failing, it's just you have information that you have to dive into. You're gathering, right? Using your gathering instinct to gather info and data. And this is where we tie all of this together. So every month, your ritual is going to look like this. You're going to understand your data. First things first. Look at the last 30 days. All right? Your reach, your follows, your engagement, your conversion, your energy. Okay? Those 5 categories. Then you're going to sort into the 3 different buckets that we talked about. Do more, do less, do different. After that, you want to make those micro tweaks. So choose 1 to 2 posts from the do different and decide, is it a new hook? Is it a new format? Is it a new call to action? Better packaging? Am I going to re-record it? How am I going to do this differently? And then the next month, you're going to focus and decide, this month I'm doubling down on this type of content. And keep experimenting with that, okay? Don't just do it one time and never do it again. Keep experimenting, all right? Boardroom members, this is your assignment, all right? You're going to pick one platform, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, wherever you're focused, and you are going to do this reflect and perfect ritual for your last 30 days of content, all right? So fill out 3 things that go in your do more list, 2 things that go in your do less list, and 2 things that go in your do different list. All right? You're going to choose 1 experiment for this month, just 1, and then you're going to post it inside the boardroom. So screenshot or list your do more, do less, do different buckets. Share your 1 experiment so that I can hold you accountable. All right? You don't need to do more content and throw out more ideas. You need a simple system for listening to the content that you've already posted. And when you commit to this ritual of reflecting and perfecting every single month, your content, your confidence, your cash flow is all going to compound. All right? So if you need support walking through this, come see me and I'd be happy to take a look. Make sure you raise your hand and use the resources that I've posted around this video. And I'll see you next year.